What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock, Trust Engine Mortgage Coach community is leading a mastermind. Often it is loan officers. Today we have a mortgage executive who I think is just an incredible innovator, industry change agent. She calls herself a trailblazer. And we'll bring her on stage in just a minute. Before I do that, Deborah Bird, it's good to have you on today's call. We don't have Todd Bookspan, but what's up, Deborah?
Good morning. Like my shirt today? Nice and colorful? All right.
And trust me, everybody, I did not tell her to wear the shirt. Like, she's just wearing it on her own accord. So it is a no borrower left behind day. Kristen Messerly is filling in for Todd Bookspan. What's up, Kristen?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Kristen Messerly has a new role. She is the executive director of First Home IQ. And Kristen, looking forward to having you engage in today's conversation.
Yeah, so excited to be here.
Cool. Deborah, anything you want to say to frame this call before I bring on our special guest and we start talking about what homeowners want today, or I should say borrowers want today, and what they're going to want tomorrow? Anything you want to say?
I think it's a good continuation from our call last week where we were talking about, reflecting on Q1 and then how do you really lean into Q2? And I think today it's working hard, but also working smart. So I'm excited to have Katherine. I've already watched a few YouTube videos of you, so I'm super pumped to hear what you're going to deliver today. And I just think it's really timely as, this is the home buying season historically. So the one thing we can control is effort, but let's do it in a smart way.
Right on.
Thank you.
Oh, so before I bring on Katherine, I want to frame the call this way, because most of the people that watch our videos are either loan officers, branch managers, and they not necessarily the ones making the technology decisions. This video, guys, is something that you'll want to forward to your C-suite. You'll want to forward to the leaders in your company. Because what you're going to hear is from someone who really understands where technology is and where technology is going, and to drive a better borrower experience. Most borrowers aren't getting the most modern experience possible, and they want it. And your C-suite and your decision makers, they need to not only be making sure you have the right tech for today, like spring home buying season 2023, but it needs to be the right tech stack for 2025. So we're going to bring on stage Katherine Campbell. She has been a leader in the C-suite in the mortgage business for a long time. She's been on our customer advisory board. So she's someone at Trust Engine that has been to our events. Like, when we have events and we want to really hear from executives on what they're doing, what they want from us, she's someone that has helped us a lot. So Katherine, welcome.
Thank you so much. It is fantastic to be with all of you. Masterminds with Dave Savage. Where else would I want to be today? Thank you.
Yeah, well, hey, let's just spend a couple of minutes, and I want folks to know your backstory, like, because you're going to be giving us some advice and telling us, what you think borrowers want. I just want to make sure they know it's coming from a place of experience. So just give us a little bit on your backstory.
Sure. Well, I had the good fortune of going to visit a family friend in the early 90s in San Francisco. I had never been to California, and I was awestruck with the left coast and everything that it offered. Look at your beautiful view there, Dave. And I immediately dove in, and by 99, we already had the early rumblings of startup going, around the Bay Area. But by 99, I was able to dive into a very decent role. And at that time, it started to have this overlap of analytics and marketing. That whole old saying of, I know 50% of my advertising works, I just don't know which 50% it is. We could suddenly tell which 50% it was, right? It was very exciting to know that you could have a CPC, a CPA, and the earlier guys of web advertising were like, you cannot minimize the value of a brand impression. The brand impression is still where it's at. So, here's the deal. It doesn't matter if someone knows your brand if they never buy anything from you. And so getting early into the analytics, I was able to grow my career and got into the financial world and largely into life insurance space, which, by the way, is the only space that has more knowledge than we do. And that's because they have your blood type, right? Otherwise, we have every other piece of information of life insurance except your blood type. And so when I got into the space, they were trying to figure out if there was a digital presence for it. And they were pretty sure there wasn't, because, life insurance is the only thing you'll have to, go to the bathroom in front of a nurse and draw blood and get on a scale and do all these things. And you never see the benefit of it. You pay for it every single month and you don't even see the benefit of it. So that it was so personal, it was for someone else, that it was really not an online product. Well, in about 18 months, we proved them significantly wrong. And then on came the onslaught of the AIG directs and, everybody coming on board. And so that is very much the situation we're facing today. That's what we'll talk about, that we are really the most laggard industry in the digital transformation. We are probably the only industry I have seen in the 25 years of doing this that the consumer is more ready for the digital path than we are. We can't quite keep up fast enough, both legally and then just technically from an adoption standpoint for what they're ready to do. And other industries, we're chasing them. You can do this online. If you call anybody today, do it online. For us, we're like, still call us. So it's a fascinating place to be.
Yeah, no, and I think it's an exciting place to be because there is so much opportunity for loan officers and lenders to catch up with that. So first of all, Kristen or Deborah, anything you want to get out of her backstory before we just dive into the topic?
I'd love to just hear a little bit more. I had the pleasure of being on a panel with you at, I think it was Lenders One, but we talked a lot on the panel and off about the way that you have organized the tech stack at Assurance Financial, and just the balance that you've taken. And I know most of the audience here is loan officers, but I would love to hear a little bit more about how you've been planning for this balance between accommodating the borrower and that drive that you're talking about and how quickly that's moving, as well as the operation side and the, how are you thinking about that, I guess, in your role?
Great question. And I'm so glad you brought this up, because right off the bat, we have to remember that there are two types of journeys going on in a massive revolution like the mortgage industry is facing. There is an internal journey, right? So that's all your loan officers, everyone who works for the company, your operations team. And there's an external journey. That external journey certainly includes your customers, but it also includes your partners. How are your real estate agents, passing along your application link? How are your title companies receiving documents today? So lenders are really on board for training everyone internally and externally of this new journey as they continue to, adopt digital transformation through each milestone. These are multiple technologies. And as we continue to adopt them, we have to go train the next audience that would use them. And so it's very important that, and I love loan officers. God knows, I think it's one of the most complicated jobs in the world, and they're highly, highly needed. And, these advisors that really know what they're doing are not going anywhere, but they don't have the technical skill to make the decisions, understanding the consequence of the tech stack that we build. And so it's very important that, we don't just slam a technology out there, that we bring them on with the why. We help them see the value to the consumer, knowing that if the consumer finds value in the technology, they're certainly finding value in the loan officer that is assisting them. So it's very important that adoption doesn't just happen on the day you launch a product. Adoption happens almost one at a time. When a loan officer is ready, they will not all be ready on launch day, right? That's where you continuously have the 101s, bringing them on board, continuously making sure that your automated communications go to all parties involved and are specific to how it affects them, that particular milestone. So it's making sure that you're thinking of the whole picture.
Well,
Catherine,
oh, go ahead, Deborah.
do you think that the root cause of some of this with the delay is it more on a adoption from like a company, from the leadership of maybe some outdated policies that they have that makes them nervous? Or do you think it's they adopt technology and there's a disconnect from loan officers executing and integrating the tech?
This is why it's so exciting that I'm on my own right now, because I can really honestly answer that question, Deb. I can tell. So first of all, there's a mix, right? Absolutely depends on the company. Some companies, the leadership is completely ready, and they sort of shove it down the loan officer's throat. There's been a lot of attrition from that. That's just really not how to handle it. Sometimes, you sort of have the early adopter LOs, and then you can get sort of your beta group to convince the other loan officers that this is a good thing. Once loan officers have buy-in, the C-suite always agrees, right? But if the C-suite doesn't sort of insist that this is where we're headed, it's an inevitable from the industry, that it's not just us doing this, that we are giving you the tools that you need. It's very important that, the person who's the change agent, oftentimes it should be a chief digital officer. So, sometimes it's the marketing officer who is the major change agent, is supported by the C-suite. If everything that is rolled out, the regional managers say, hey, look, I know these guys are telling us they're going to do these things. You just go get the business. Don't worry about how you put it in. If you have any lack of synergy and the growth towards this evolution, it will break down. And so the only person you're disappointing in the long run is the consumer, because again, the capability has been there for some time. Making it seamless is not easy. I don't find very many people doing a great job of that at all. And that is from allowing people to make decisions that shouldn't. Hey, sales team, you go get, you want to point a sales system, y'all pick one. Hey, marketing, you want a CRM, you go pick one. Hey, you want a creative team, you want a repository tool, go pick one, right? So you have all these guys sort of going out on their own, and then, the automation behind them, making it feel seamless. I'm going to put a borrower through potentially at least 11 technologies. They should not feel like it was 11 technologies, right? They should just feel like, wow, it's just so easy. I just worked with this one company. It was great. So it can be all over the map, but it is way past time for the conversation of, are you ready to get digital? I don't care what level you are in the company.
I love this. I am so pumped on this conversation because you don't currently wear a jersey and work for a specific company. Of course, whatever company ends up getting you on their team, can't wait to see what that happen, because you are a change agent. I mean, you get both journeys, the internal journey to create the digital transformation, and you get the borrower journey. So let's get into that right now. Like what do borrowers expect right now in this market? And then let's do this call on two halves. So for the next 20-ish minutes, we're just going to focus on what do they expect today, what's the difference, and maybe we can give everybody some ideas to improve where they're at. And then we'll spend the last 20 minutes on, what are they going to demand in 2025? Like if you don't have X in 2025, you're in the have-nots. You need to have this if you want to be in the haves. So what is it today?
Yeah, and Kristen and Deb, please jump in with me, because you guys are really just as much as you're probably more focused. An expert is someone who learns more and more about less and less. I know a whole lot, about a whole lot, but these guys know, everything about a more niche market like this generation. So let me start by saying that it is unacceptable anymore to continue to sort of control the narrative about a product that is as expensive as it is for the borrower to go through as a mortgage, and is as stressful, right? It just consumes the mind. So the idea of having this opaque conversation like loan officers often did, where they would say, don't send the appraisal back to them when it comes in. I'll decide, when they can see their $1,500 appraisal that they've already paid for, right? Don't just send a link to do an application. They need to come see me, because that's how I keep the deal, or whatever it is. It is a different world where consumers today are perfectly capable of asking questions, and they're quite comfortable with it. In fact, that is sort of where the demand is today. I know I have questions, let's say millennials, Gen Xers, everyone does, right? If you're downsizing and potentially buying your last home, that there are a lot of questions there. No one is uncomfortable asking questions about a product they may only buy every 4 to 5 years. The difference today is let the borrower decide when they want to ask those questions. You be available in the process when they've decided they have a question. So instead of insisting on seeing someone for 30 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever it may take to do an online or a application, they may not have any questions about the application. I got it. Here's my bank statements. I can actually just log in through Plaid. I can, make it very simple, give you all my information. I get social security numbers on our applications all day long in states we don't even have a branch, right? So people are very comfortable with the application process. It's once they start making decisions, maybe even after the lock, they start thinking of consequences. There may be a lot of questions. And so that you need to be available for the consumer to insert themselves when they want it.
Sorry, I was trying to get over here to the unmute. I wanted to add to that, definitely aligned on that. And one of the problems that I've seen as a result is that consumers, well, first of all, I think a lot of times loan officers haven't adapted to the customer empowerment model of like customers want to, make those decisions for themselves. They want to have the information. But one of the problems that we're in today, and maybe this will get to where we're going in 2025, but it's that consumers are feeling very overwhelmed with the information and they're feeling very alone. In our study that we did a few months ago, we found that only half of next gen, so millennials and Gen Z borrowers, said that they had the financial advice and support they needed to achieve their financial goals. They also felt undereducated, weren't confident in their financial knowledge, and uncertainty in where to begin the process was a current barrier they listed to buying a home this year. So just like seeing how there is this demand for information and controlling the process and the journey, that's really, really crucial, but also balanced with the fact that people are feeling really overwhelmed. They're distrusting their loan officer. And, so there's some barriers there to overcome through that journey.
What do you think, Katherine, to the loan officer who may be listening to this and in their mind, do they think they're actually offering better service by taking that loan app over the phone or able to build that rapport where they think for that incubation time, because we know that buyers today, it's taking a little bit longer for them to find the home. And so they truly believe that this way is the better way, whether they're coming into the office for that buyer consultation or they are taking that app over the phone. What is some misbeliefs there? Is that true? Is it not? And is it the same for all generational trends?
Yeah, I definitely think we all need to have empathy for the loan officer today. We are the people, us on this call, whoever listens to this right now today and for the next couple of years and for the last few years, who are transitioning this industry. We didn't realize we were on deck 5 years ago, but we were, and now here we are, and we're not quite done. So we are the people transitioning this industry. That's very exciting to say for somebody like me, who's a technologist and absolutely loves the surprise and delight of the consumer to make a very complex product very simple. But that's not exciting if you've been successful in a non-digital world. If that's where your bread and butter came from, and that is how you have fed your family, this is not a comfortable space to be in. It doesn't matter how much somebody else loves it. And so I think it's important to have empathy for them. However, what I always like to do in companies is to remind everybody, about other industries. People just sort of forget that we're already digital customers in so many other industries. So, if you think of like, the web 2.0, like travel and retail, right? The ability to just go online and buy something, go online and book an airline ticket. Do you know how complex it is to go to something like Expedia, book an airline ticket, a rental car, a hotel? These are massive integrations. There is nothing simple about the back end of that capability, but it's very simple from the front end to use that. And so we all do that. There's not a loan officer out there who's like, driving around looking for a travel agent to go buy an airline ticket. And then you go into sort of like the web 3.0, where you have like Uber, right? And Uber Eats, and, they even evolved more. And so these sort of ability to have delivery and on-demand services out of the web is absolutely incredible. And so then where we're headed with 4.0, and I know we'll talk about ChatGPT and that sort of thing, where, you're talking about virtual reality of all of this. This is a an absolute jet plane, right? This is a locomotive that's moving. There's no stopping it. And have you guys ever heard of like that Jeff Foxworthy guy who's like, you might be a redneck if? Okay, so I was thinking,
Of course.
like in this conversation to help them sort of laugh at themselves, is that we, instead of a loan officer, you be an old officer. You might be an old officer if, sort of thing. You might, I wrote a couple down here. Okay. If you believe your value is building a very organized file, you might be an old officer. Okay. That let the technology, like Kristen was just saying, let the technology do the hard work for you. If you are a loan officer that doesn't want an app alert to get you through the milestones because you already get the emails and that's good enough, you might be an old officer, right? So you got to start to think, we as technologists for the last few years have sort of been constantly arguing the obvious. Like I remember a CEO I worked for, we use Domo, right? Very, sophisticated business intelligence tool, instant data, right? Data on demand. As soon as you open that app on your phone or on your computer, you've got it. And so it was fascinating when he said, okay, so wait, when am I going to get my daily pipeline report? Because I always get it at 7:00 at night. I've had dinner with my family and then I want to go sit and look at all the data from that day. And I said, okay, well, you can just get it when you want it. He goes, but I mean, when it comes to me, that's when I know I'm going to go sit in my chair and go through the data. And I said, well, what if you were done with dinner at 6:50? Or what if you wanted to spend 15 more minutes with your children? I mean, like you can just go. He's like, but this is how I want it. I said, I'll send you an alert. I'll send an alert to your phone every day at 7:00. And if you want to answer it. So we're sort of arguing the obvious, but you have to remember that when people, that's again, I always say in the South, we say you got to hurt them to heal them. There wasn't enough pain with the amount of margin we used to have. And then intro 2018 and margin compression, and look where we are today. And suddenly there's a lot of hurt to be healed, and technology is the solution.
So I want to kind of play, I love that. If this is how you do things, you might be an old loan officer. I want to show my screen and I want to get your thoughts on this. If this is how you're delivering rates and fees to a consumer, first of all, you're not just an old loan officer, you're delivering a transaction, and the machine and the manufacturing of a transaction is getting more and more automated. We'll talk about that chat GBT and other things a little bit later on. But Katherine, I want to get your thoughts on this, because this is an integration we have with Simple Nexus. And to me, I think this really embodies today and the future, where a consumer can fill out that app from any device. And in that same app experience, it integrates with another technology, our Mortgage Coach app, which delivers advice. It gives people options, which is transparency. It shows the cost over time. It integrates with Optimal Blue. It integrates with, smart fees. It integrates with most PMI companies. So there is a lot of tech going on here, but the consumer, they fill out the app, they could do it from any device. And now the loan officer could deliver this augmented advice experience. So to me, this is a really good example of technology companies working really well together, and really delivering something quite unique and something valuable for both the consumer and for the loan officer and the organization. What are your thoughts on that?
You nailed it. You might be an old officer if you are not using Mortgage Coach. I would even go so far to argue, to Kristen's point, the overwhelming and aloneness is not so much because people are uneducated about their financial capabilities and options, as it is the way the content is delivered. If you get that first format that you showed, that is confusing. You've never seen anything like it. You don't know exactly how it relates to you. It's the difference between a loan officer who's really trying to teach someone the loan business. Well, this is what a conforming loan is. And if you do this LTV, maybe we can get you this. But your DTI is going to go up here. You start that whole minutia of conversation, and you have alienated them, trying to make yourself the expert to where people are completely dependent on you. And where you can see this is if you take, we use experience.com. I've been close to that company. They do a great job that is really dual purpose. Certainly you need ratings and reviews to be able to promote your digital business, and everybody's going to want to trust other people more than they trust you. Period. So, they don't know you as the loan officer yet. And so, being able to see these ratings and reviews are important. But take your ratings and reviews and look at the ones that say, oh my gosh, he was there every single time I called. Thank gosh he was there. We don't know what we would have done. We were so confused. He was just the best. Really? Versus someone who used a mortgage coach and was like, this was so easy. I can't even remember. I feel like I didn't even do a refinance. The last time I did this was so complicated. And I'll just wrap this thought up with this. I, 3 years ago, kept telling loan officers, do not be afraid to send out that link with your application, because they've never done one either, right? They're not going to say, gosh, the last digital application I had was so much easier than this. There was no last time that they had a digital application for a mortgage. You're both going through this together. That is not the case anymore, right? We have refinanced, the majority of mortgages in this country in the last couple of years. And so they will have had a last time they did this. And it's very important that you compete with that.
So my favorite customer testimonial over the past couple of years came from an active duty Marine officer, and the mortgage coach loan officer delivered the experience, and he actually sent back your mortgage coach video, and those numbers made me want to find the last 3 loan officers I did business with and punch them in the face. I mean, and I always kind of epitomize that. It's super funny. And I'm not advocating violence, but I think, for every loan officer, it's spring home buying season 2023, you need to deliver an experience that is so polished, so valuable, and it's advice, not price, so that the client is literally like pissed off at their last loan officer. They're just like, oh my God, like this is so much better. So we got about a few more minutes that we can, talk about what people need to be delivering today. So I think what I'd like to do is just, if you had a checklist, so every loan officer can listen, give, the Katherine Campbell digital experience checklist that loan officers should have. And then of course, they're going to forward this to their C-suite. And if you were, given 10 minutes of coaching and advice to executives and C-suites, what does the tech stack need to look like? And, what are the things that should be like, check, check, check.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
So perfect question, because there is the consumer perception, which is that there should be a digital experience. And I'll walk you through that briefly. And then there is time. Where we're going is we will start with the new technologies to condense time. And those are largely operational tools that the borrower never sees. When the time condenses, you better have all the tools the borrower sees in place, because if you're not sending out automations correctly, if they're not able to log in quickly, if you don't have SSOs across these tools set up, and you have a block in your road, it doesn't matter how fast you can produce it, the customer can't figure it out. So let's definitely today, before the time, the 7-day mortgage is around the corner, guys. I was trying to convince, people a year and a half ago, the 15-day mortgage was coming, and they're like, no, people can't even move in 15 days. I said, people are buying a home sight unseen. I'll take it. I'll move my stuff later, honey. Let's go. I mean, they don't need 30 days all the time. It certainly should not, be required that it's because it takes that long to manage paperwork that we are requiring it. So let's first look at just the very high level milestones of the end-to-end journey. They are looking for a loan, they are applying for a loan, they go through the production of a loan, and they fund a loan. Okay, they sign and fund a loan. So the looking for a loan should be pretty swift. Design thinking, and particularly this younger generation, has a real important impact on the affinity and loyalty to a brand. If they come to a site and it's very confusing, or the loan officer's page just looks old and dated, they're going to think that's how they run their business, right? So it's very important that in the engagement phase, you look slick. It's very easy to do today. The second is the application. Well, you definitely want to be able to apply now and get started. When you've wowed somebody with that brand and you look great, they better get started and have a very easy, no hurdles to entry there to get started with you. What do we really need? We need an email address, phone number, and we don't even need a first name. If I have those two things, I'm going to call you, I'm going to email you, I'm going to text you. I'm going to make sure that you get a great experience of re-engaging with me if you did not complete the application. So let's say you go forward and complete the application. Well, all of the automation, so your marketing operating system should send some very slick, some milestone congratulations as they go with some very clear steps that are pertinent to them. It's not enough to just say, congratulations, you're in processing. We'll let you know next time, where you are. Okay, what's processing and how that works? It's like, congratulations, your loan is moving right along. At this point, you should start, finding pet care for your pet, because you might not want to, have them with you when you're moving. You may want to start getting boxes. You may want to pack things that you don't use every day. You need to talk to them about where they are in their phases, and you need to have automation that does that, as well as alerting all your partners, right? Your title and real estate partners. And then finally, the closing. We are so close. I know we'll talk about this with 2025, but we are so close to having a true end-to-end solution. The hybrid closing documents are prevalent today. That is an absolute expectation. People talk more and more about that, almost more about that. Surprise and delight of how easy it was to close versus wearing your hand out in the signing than they do how easy it was to upload documents in the application. So that's really today, consumer facing ease is the most important thing to be doing.
So a couple of questions, because I know you, as a decision maker at the company you work with, you had Mortgage Coach and Salesboomerang, and where do you see Mortgage Coach fitting into that process? And also, while the credit inquiry alerts that Salesboomerang gives, those are valuable not only to your past customer database, but they're valuable to know if someone double apps you in the process. So how do you fit those in? And then there's other technology like HomeBot, and how do all these, call it sales enablement, sales accelerating, sales conversion tools, how do they fit into that loan manufacturing tech stack?
An absolute must-have. So I really always called Salesboomerang and Mortgage Coach the 1-2 punch. If you do nothing else but this 1-2 punch, you have to remember that it's not just about the borrower themselves, but when you get specific to data that is behavioral data. So maybe, it's something if the borrower has had their credit pulled from a competitor, well, that's an obvious, intro to, urgency, in fact. But let's say that the borrower has, gotten a new car or maybe had a baby, these life alerts that they send. A lot of loan officers today would say, oh yeah, but I just refinanced them 8 months ago and now the rates are higher and there's nothing I can do. I don't care that I got this alert from Salesboomerang. Send the Mortgage Coach and say, look where you'd be today if we had waited for you to purchase that home or refinance your home. Look at the rates. You are so much better off. Let them see what a favor you did for them 8 months ago. So now they've changed the behavior that you know about. You've educated them on their specific product, their specific loan. And guess what? The loans are not just in your database. The loans are in your databases. Okay, your database. They have multiple people in their database. Wow them, talk to them and say, and by the way, anybody else in your group, looking to move, actually my sister did say she's going to go ahead and bite the bullet, right? So this is why if you take the time to talk about them, they'll take the time to talk to you.
I love that. Well, I want to show my screen because I want every loan officer to see this. And I really do recommend you forward this to your C-suite, because what I'm going to show you next, this is not only today, but guys, this is the future, that you, especially when you're picking technology partners, the way we see it at Trust Engine is we need to wrap around a tech stack. So a pricing engine, an LOS, all those technologies that Katherine shared, so that you as an originator, you have what you need wherever you're at in the process. If you're pricing out a loan, an Optimal Blue is, currently the category king of, pricing. You should have an advice engine within that, so that you go from I'm pricing a loan with technology, and now there's another piece of technology, Mortgage Coach, click here, click there, and going from price to advice. Like, this is a really good example of where technology, and again, Mortgage Coach, we're pulling data from the fee engine, smart fees. We're pulling data from the MI. So just a really good example. And if you're not doing this, this is the future. What are your thoughts on that, Catherine?
Absolutely. So, information, education, and, communication are the phases where the loan officer advisor, really the loan advisor, is desperately needed, and the ability to communicate when and how a borrower wants to communicate, if it's through a chat bot, if it's through texting, if it's through email communications or a phone call, is the only thing they need to focus on. It really is much easier, and they can stay focused on the products that are relevant for borrowers. We are about to find ourselves in a very challenging financial situation where the ability to buy, the purchasing power of the average consumer may very well be getting more challenging. Focus on those conversations and that knowledge over trying to make sure they get in your office for an application, digital or not, right? So that's the three important parts.
All right, community. So keep the questions coming. I am going to pivot it because we can still talk about keys to winning today. And I'm going to try to close out with like, hey, here, spring 2023, what is the optimized pre-approval? I'll try to net that out at the end. But let's pivot to tomorrow. Paul Hurley has asked some questions, and Kristen, thanks for answering that one. But he wants to know about AI, and obviously ChatGPT 4.0, which I signed up for that. I'm getting 4.0. It's here. It's no longer like an idea or a concept. It is here today. Could you share? Let's start getting into the future of the industry, and what are your thoughts on AI, and when is it really going to have significant impact? Is it going to take away the jobs of loan officers? Kind of speak to that if you could.
So I'm very excited about this because this is really a humanistic effort. This is very different than just saying we've got a point of sale system, right? Distributed ledger technology really starts to enable distributed economics, right? The ability for people to, find funds, to apply for funds, receive those funds, is a very, very different conversation. And the biggest thing it probably does for our industry is to just what I was discussing. It used to be, let's say, 15 years ago, even maybe 6 years ago, where IQ was everything, right? How intelligent are you? What was your GPA at school? I used to apply for jobs when I was younger. They'd ask me my GPAs, and I'd send in my transcripts for things and all of that. But with something like ChatGPT, that really becomes the brains, that all knowledge can live in it. I had beers a couple of weeks ago with Aru, who is the CEO of BotSplash, and she has integrated ChatGPT with her AI tool. And so it sort of takes an enormous amount of data, but makes it practical to how your business needs to use it. So you're right, Dave, this is here. This is not one day, this is here. And what we need to start to think about is the equation this is my equation. It's AQ plus EQ is greater now than your IQ. Your emotional quotient, right? How do you feel about all of this? How do you care about my mortgage? Do you understand what my family is going through in this? Plus your AQ, your adaptability quotient. Are you saying, okay, I care, but oh my gosh, we have this bad technology that I don't understand, and it's so crazy, just come in my office. You've got to have both. We're going to make this easy for you. I understand the technology. I care about you. There's my EQ. And those combined way outweigh the IQ, because they can find this information on ChatGPT with or without you. And you can find the information instantly so that you're not struggling so much to retain it all. So that is the new formula for the not old officer, for the new officer.
I love that EQ plus AQ and adaptability, because I do believe the superpower of today is, learning, unlearning, and relearning. Deborah and Kristen, anything you want to kind of drill down on that. I thought that was pretty slick. I saw you taking notes, Deborah.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is adoptability. And I'd love to know your opinion on those who are the early pioneers with this stuff, how much that gives them the competitive advantage, especially for anyone listening on this call. And if they do send this to their leadership team, how important is that of being one of the first to take on these tools?
That is, we all have a little saboteur in us, right? We can get to the 1 yard line and say, Uncle, I quit, right? Because it's been a tough journey, particularly for mid to small size IMBs. This was very expensive. It was a venture that I think no one anticipated. And because of the highs of the 2020, 2021 years, it just felt like, let's just keep going because I can't understand where this is headed. And we've got more money than we ever had. And so let's just keep spending. And then all of a sudden, what I call CPFL, the cost per funded loan, is now not even palatable. So being first is not necessarily the most critical thing, but staying on trend with market expectation is. And I think where a lot of the larger lenders got themselves in a tough bind is they did allow loan officers to say, I want this point of sale system. I want this one. I want that. Okay, we'll have 5 point of sale systems, right? We'll pay everybody. So it is now not only unscalable, it's a little bit like, trying to herd cats. And so it certainly is not feasible. And that's where we talk about, that's what I know someone asked about the SSO, where you have a single sign-on to one path that makes sense for your internal teams and your external teams. Exactly what you take on when you can decide, but whether or not to be in this game, you really can't decide. So it's past like, should we be the first or not? You may not need to be the first to offer Ron, but the first time someone in your community that's important to you goes on to their Google review and says, oh my gosh, I call it, do not leave your sofa, do not stop eating potato chips, get a mortgage, right? You will just sit there and get a mortgage. Once those raving reviews come in, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, single sign-on is so important. I mean, we have found over and over, because we have an individual user version of Mortgage Coach. Every loan officer, if you don't have it, you can get it. Go to our website, get a demo, or just sign up. It's $150 a month. But the real value of an enterprise relationship is that now it becomes a single sign-on. It's integrated into your pricing engine. It's integrated into your LOS, depending on what your point of sale is. It's integrated into most CRMs. And what we find is that the adoption, it doesn't double, it could be tenfold. And that is because single sign-on SSO is more important than I think a lot of executives believe it is. What is your message to executives as it pertains to integrating with Mortgage Coach, Salesboomerang, and Trust Engine? Because I know it was something that you believed in your tenure as an executive. What's your advice to them?
My advice is that if that's not your plan, the whole Trust Engine package, what is your plan? Because, a couple of years ago, you might have been able to say, my plan is I'm going to have great SEO. Well, first of all, SEO is time. There's no getting out of the time to nurture and grow traffic to your website and pass those Google algorithms. You might say, my plan is to do paid search, okay? Chasing after the next loan from someone you've never met that's going to do this massive transaction with you. I sort of assimilate it to trying to determine when to sell a runway model running shoes, okay? She is a runway model. You can buy some key terms to get some running shoes, okay? You can try to guess when this person, and I'm sure lots of runway models do buy running shoes, but guessing when they do and trying to put it out to all models versus, tracking behavior within a database that you already have a relationship with, there is no comparison, okay? None. So that is now also become extremely competitive online just in the last 3 or 4 years, where it used to not be. You had sort of your big box lenders, your digital lenders, and there was not a lot of collaboration from the traditional IMBs and lenders and the sort of novel ones, because I'll just say it, sort of the arrogance between the two of, oh, this shouldn't be so difficult. I'm going to come in here with my technology and show you how easy it can be, right? And then the traditional lender saying, are you kidding me? That nothing that you just said is compliant. You will not make it, 2 years past anything that's not a refinance market. So it would have been ideal, and it's certainly not too late for these types of lenders to work together. There's lots of time later to compete, but today you have to have the absolute user behavior and segmentation that's important, that you're pinpointing. Someone who is downsizing is not the same person as someone buying their first time home. And if they go and search a term that says mortgage near me, you have no idea what they're looking for at that point. What is anything about them? Your database is very, very different. And so going, infiltrating from within out is much more cost effective and nurturing than going after the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm still myth at why loan officers don't make their database their number one priority. And lenders, very few lenders really, see their database as their greatest asset and have it wrapped around, Salesboomerang and trust agents. It's still not the majority. What I do think by 2025, I think that you're in the have-not camp if you have not really mastered your database and you're making it your top priority. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I actually was with Assurance Financial for just over 5 years. I consulted with them for a little while in 2017. In 2018, they asked me to come on board full time. I dove into the mortgage industry and thought, wow, this is exciting. They have nowhere to go but up. I mean, this is the most exciting thing I've ever seen. I'm in, right? Change agent. Let's go do this thing. And so I joined in August. Let's think about the time frame. In August of 2018 is when I joined them full time. October that year in Vegas was the second digital mortgage conference ever. The first one was in 2017, and they had about 20 vendors, and I think 500 people or something from what I had heard. At this one in 2018, they had 60 vendors and 5,000 people. Okay, that is how much people's were like, oh, I better get in the game and figure out what's going on over here. And the at that 2018 conference, there was a futurist who was the keynote speaker. And he said, you want to know where I see this in 2025? So perfect that I got to hear this since we're having this conversation today. He said, this is where I believe this product will be in 2025. You will be online, with a Zillow or something and find a home that you like. You will ask for a QR code, sort of like Open Door, right? So you will ask for a QR code and you will go and visit that home with your QR code. They now know that you've come in. They will, if you continue to go back and forth with that QR code, they'll know how interested you are in the home. You will stand inside the home. You will have already gotten pre-qualified very easily by basically tokenized data, which is exactly what we're working on today. And you will say, this is it. This is the home I want. I absolutely love it. And a little pop-up will come on your phone and it will say, is 123 Main Street the home that you're in? Yes. Is this the home you want to buy? Yes. Click here, get mortgage, done. And that is the blockchain technology where title transfers, immutable data has been already approved, and you now own that home. And so that is his vision, which I think we are very much on track to be able to deliver, which means the advisor needs to be available in a moment's notice. They could make a very quick decision to buy, but they need your advice about, to go with you for the funding and those sorts of information. So it's incredible that he said that in 2018, and here we are.
Well, I spoke at that event, and that futurist was Steve Brown.
I could not remember his name.
Yeah, the bald futurist. He was the former chief futurist for Intel.
Okay.
And by the way, talk about small world that you just brought this up. I'm interviewing him again right after this. I've interviewed him a bunch of times, but literally I'm going to be.
I thought it was weird you had his book right there. That's incredible.
Yeah, because I'm literally going from this call and I'm interviewing, Steve Brown.
Tell him I said hi. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, this is a book. If what I'm talking about is interesting to you, the innovation ultimatum. He really talks about the 6 technologies that are changing the world, not just the mortgage industry. And one of the 6 is AI. And you guys, we need to pay attention. I mean, tell me if you think, I kind of put it, when I think of the mortgage experience of 2025, I see all the technology players playing better together. So I see a lot, like, I really think if you don't have single sign-on and a lender has not executed that, where they have all these best of breed technologies, where you're bringing this user experience, you talked about the journey for the user, it's very unified, and they're not like having to re-log into all these technologies. The consumer has a very seamless experience, and there's a lot of different technologies working together. And the term loan officer is gone. Like, like you can't deliver price. And to your point, if you think organizing a file and solving transactional problems is your job, you may not be in the mortgage business anymore. In 2005, you need to be advice driven. You need to be AI driven, and you need to be data driven. Like, to me, those are the three, like,
I would say too, you're exactly right, that don't put so much pressure on yourselves, loan officers and lenders, because it's not just us at bat to change this whole, revolution. There are the investors, the aggregators, the agencies, the, title laws, the, CFPB. Everybody is working to change what they are willing to accept as data and where the data points can transpire. Right now we have the MERS e-registry, versus having to send in that paper, waiting to be able to fund a loan, waiting to be able to sell it. Everybody wants money to move faster. And, look at the CBDCs coming in June, right? So that would enable that. So you really have to know that it's not all on you. Life will get easier. Transactioning the data will get easier. It's just a matter of being on board and staying the course, like Deb's saying, to be one of the earliest adopters. You don't have to be the first. You just have to understand what's going on and be in the game.
Yeah, let's net out some of these questions that are coming in. By the way, thanks, guys. One person just, scared, like, yikes, where does this leave me? And I mean, my answer to that is, if you're leveraging these technologies, your organization is the haves, they've got a database. As artificial intelligence, becomes more available, you're integrating it where it makes sense. As a human being, I do think every loan officer right now should be using, Jasper, should be using ChatGPT. You should be using it for research. You should be using it for headlines. You should be using it to create content. And then you need to be an advisor. And I do think the local referral-based loan officer that leverages all these things, like, really the golden era is ahead, because the consumer is filling out the app, the machine is doing all the work that I never liked to do when I was a loan officer. And now I just get to, like, emotional IQ, connect with people, show them I care, help them navigate these decisions. What are your thoughts on that? And then Deborah and Kristen, I'll give it to you to ask any questions and help close this out.
That's exactly right. I mean, it goes back to that, AQ plus EQ is greater than your IQ. Get in the game. Don't feel overwhelmed by these technologies like ChatGPT, because they're quite easy to use. So the learning curve is much lower on all these tools than it used to be when we were first learning things like Salesforce, kind of clunkier CRMs back in the day. This stuff is pretty easy to use, but everyone, it's just like that first digital application that you sent out where no one had done it before. Well, now they have. No one has used ChatGPT quite the way this industry needs to start using it yet, but we are starting it. So you are not too late. It doesn't matter if you haven't even ever sent a digital application. You are not too late. No one has it perfect, right? Just jump in, I tell everyone to spend 20 minutes a day, spend 20 minutes a day. The help tools on these, tools like Total Expert, Mortgage Coach, all of the video tutorials for all of these tools are there. They're very well done. They're hand holding, they're palatable. They're in 15-minute segments. Just get started. Don't overwhelm yourself with the end to end.
Kristen, why don't you ask any questions, any takeaways you want to make sure people hear, and then Deborah, be ready to take us home.
Yeah, I just want to, a lot of people, and actually someone just said they don't know where to start with ChatGPT, but in general, I think people feel really overwhelmed with the amount of technology that's available, and also we just saw that Deborah brought up before we started that the NAR trends report came out showing that boomers were the highest amount of buyers in the market, not millennials. And so there's like so many different people that you need to adapt to and have, you know, high EQ with. What would you say to a loan officer in particular? Like, where should they start in terms of thinking about updating their approach, I guess, to winning more business today?
That is the point, Kristen. Thank you. It's get started. Just get started. So pick a product. Let's say that you're very uncomfortable with the application. You're one of those very methodical people in the application. Then you don't have to co-pilot yet and get into all of that. That's what you love. Then don't do that yet. The hybrid, solution, talking about that with your closing partners and your client, starting to have the conversation. The best thing to do too is to just, let's say that you have, a partner, just sit in the living room with your partner and say, hey, look, I'm going to send you a link to my application. You're going to apply. I'm going to push you through the milestones. I'm going to see the emails that you will be getting, right? And just go through the process with someone that you trust. It could be someone at work. You could even send your Gmail, your application, and apply with yourself, right? Just go through it outside of the sort of concern of having the conversation with the borrower. The other side is the borrowers. If you just say, look, I'm learning this, but no matter what, I've got you. So don't worry about this, but I'm going to send you this link and you just tell me what you see. We'll be so happy that you're sitting on the phone with them that they really will not mind, working with you through the process.
I think that's great. And I would say for the loan officers listening, you guys know, I say this with a lot of love, but it's time to stop making excuses. And some of these kind of bullshit stories that we tell ourselves, it really comes down to you don't have a plan and you're not time blocking each day. Where is your knowledge acquisition going? Like if you don't know where to start, then let's look at, you've got 5 days a week. Let's take an hour a day. And maybe you do financial literacy on Mondays. Tuesdays is learning the technology that you already have. And categorize it. Which one from time, like how long would it take to implement? And then also categorize the impact it would have on your business. That way you're being strategic and intentional, which one should I adopt and invest more time in? And then guys, there's this thing called YouTube where you can literally type in, like I learned how to cut boys' hair during COVID. I'm not gonna say it was the best, but through reps, I got pretty darn good at cutting boys' hair. So there's this, I don't know how, I'm just going to say is a BS story that we've given ourselves as an excuse where we no longer can accept those excuses. And if you're in this community, then it's about maximizing your potential and giving great advice so that we can make a bigger impact in this world, that every borrower deserves a TCA before, during, and after the loan process. That was the only thing I was going to add to your 4-step process is after funding the loan should then be the mortgages under management. And we work so hard to get leads. Like every time you meet with a partner who sends you a client that then takes conversion that maybe, 25% actually qualify. It's like, why would you not build this wall around your database post closing to still stay in touch with them? And adopting things like Salesboomerang, like to me, that should be a non-negotiable, because where is your business going to be? Just think of it this way. Where will your business be in 2025 if you don't make this a priority and you settle with just being okay? Like we can't settle.
And even see yourself in 2025 on a year as slow as this. You can complain about it the whole time. Or when you see yourself in 2025, you can say, I'm so glad I spent all that time in 2023 on all that downtime learning all of this technology. You can't do it when the jet engine is 40,000 feet in the air. It's landed. The jet's not going too fast, so spend the time.
So guys, I'm going to net this out. And what I'm going to show you right now turns every spring home pre-approval that you do into 2 or 3 loans. First of all, don't do this. Don't give a fee worksheet. Make sure at the point of sale, you're giving advice, not price. Make sure that your database is being monitored. Like you got to know when rates go down, who's in the money. If you take a pre-approval and someone double apps you, you want to know about that. You want to know if someone's in your database and they list their home. And here's the deal. Sales Boomerang takes that data signal and the machine creates the total cost analysis. So right now you're doing all these loans at 6.5. When rates hit 5.5, you get a rate and term alert. Hey, this person's qualified. And you know what? It creates a total cost analysis. And here's what the loan officer of the future does. They put the video on it. You know, they look at it, they augment it. The machine created something valuable for them. And now they're just augmenting it. And then they're delivering it and they're having a conversation. So guys, if you follow this, and then remember, we have a YouTube channel, you know, multiple times a week. We are creating content that's both inspirational and educational. We do training. You know, we're a tech company that does live training every single day of the week. So whether you're new to Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang and Trust Engine, or whether you've been doing it, you know, every Wednesday, we're doing some training. So Katherine, I can't wait to see where you land. Whoever gets you is a really lucky person. If any executives are watching this and you're looking for a C-suite that understands how to execute and make the digital transformation today, and also understands where it's going and can adapt quickly, get her on your team. And I can't wait to see where you land. And Kristen, thank you so much for filling in for Todd. And usually when you're here, you're the star of the show. So I can't wait to have you back for that. And
I am such a huge fan of Katherine. So it has been so much fun to be here. And thanks again.
yeah, and Deborah, great job for being the lead and doing the Win by Noon Todd Bookspan close.
You got it.
Thank you, guys. So fun. Great to see you.
This is a wrap.
Ready?
Boom.